How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bodacious Rant. Hope everybody's had a great weekend. Movies-wise, I would say this was a pretty mediocre weekend overall. If you haven't done so already, we posted our non-spoiler review for Kraven the Hunter, starring Aaron Taylor Johnson. So feel free to check that out if you want to, or just breeze through it. Whatever catches your fancy. This time we are talking about a movie I was actually low-key looking forward to. At first I thought, I don't know how I feel about it, but the trailer changed my mind. We are talking about one of the movies to grace probably one of my favorite franchises ever, which is The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, starring Brian Cox. Let me see who else was in it. I apologize. Gail Wise, Miranda Otto from the original films, Christopher Lee, God rest him, and a bunch of other great actors for the voice work. This was an animated film, and this is also a non-spoiler review. So if you do like the video, give us that thumbs up. Don't forget to ring the bell to stay up to date for notifications, and of course subscribe. Just keep joining in on all our spoilers and all our non-spoiler reviews. We appreciate you all for that. So, with this being involved in The Lord of the Rings, very similar to Rings of Power and the Hobbit films, this one it's not necessarily a Ring movie, but it's still within that timeline, essentially. So this takes place hundreds of years before the events of Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, in which Rohan, after it's been created and ruled by the famous king Helm Hammerhand from the Two Towers, if any of you guys remember that one, where they're talking about the Hornburg and stuff. Essentially, there's a civil war going on with Rohan, and Helm Hammerhand is forced to fight along in that war, participate in it. But his daughter Hera is the true hero of the story, who basically proves her worth. And this was an animated film, very specific Japanese anime. It was directed by, I can't think of the name right now. I apologize. Kenji Kamiyama, and I had hope for it because I'm like, 2D animation needs to make a comeback, especially with stuff like Arcane, which felt very 2D but had 3D aesthetics, Castlevania, stuff like that on Netflix. And again, this one was just disappointing. When Bern and I were watching it, the animation just did not feel up to par with this story. Because if you've seen the Lord of the Rings movies or read the books or anything, this is a pretty epic franchise. And the animation just didn't really capture that for a majority of the film. There were some neat moments in it, and I think the character design was great. I don't mind the story overall. But yeah, it just was, it wasn't there. It was just kind of boring and almost borderline unnecessary. And I remember thinking after we watched it, I think this would have been better live action, but at the same time, with some of the stuff that was supposed to happen in this movie, there's no way I don't think a studio would finance it, because it would just been so expensive. But Bern, what did you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, look, the novelty of, getting a story set, in within the Middle Earth, within the Lord of the Rings IP, but depicted in the Japanese anime was really cool, and was a lot of the reason why I also was excited for this movie. I feel like, a lot of IPs sort of would lend themselves really well to be, sort of adapted in sort of like an anime style, or have stories told in an anime style. And to see this one, coming into it, I thought, yeah, that's a really cool idea. We should definitely do some more of that, And I will say, this movie for me was a mixed bag, because there was a lot of it that I did really enjoy. I mean, yeah, the story itself was pretty interesting, and these characters were also fairly interesting for the most part. Gaia Wise as Hera, I thought was a real standout here, and I'm looking at her things she's worked on in the past, and it seems like she hasn't really done a lot, and in particular, a lot of voice acting work, and I thought she nailed it here. Really gave us that character that you want to root for and want to succeed in their endeavors, even though they're being pushed down by everyone around them, and have to use their wits and their mind to get themselves out of impossible situations. I thought those are always fun characters to follow, and those are a lot of characters that we do see in anime. For people who watch anime, they know that there's that particular archetype of that scrappy main character that just has to figure out ways to succeed. So I thought she did a really good job. But yeah, yeah, where it comes into the disappointing part of it is, yeah, the animation, surprisingly. They seem to do what a lot of modern day, anime series do, when they're trying to, cut corners, trying to get things out quickly, is using a lot of 3D backgrounds and assets, and then putting, the 2D characters onto them. And it was so jarring and took me out of the movie at a lot of the times. The best live action equivalent is when you see bad green screen, where you see, the character and the background, they don't really mesh because the lighting is different. It doesn't look like they're in that environment. That was there for a lot of this movie, and that was very disappointing because, yeah, we hardly get a lot of 2D animation, let alone anime, feature length movies. Very, very rarely, whenever Studio Ghibli makes a movie, that will come out into the theaters, but we don't get a lot of that outside of them. And, for this to sort of be one of the ones that comes out as a representative of that, it feels it feels like a letdown, on that end. And that was disappointing because, look, the whole movie's in animation, so that's hard to ignore when you see that sort of things. But again, it was the characters that I did really like. I thought Brian Cox was great as Helm Hammerhand. He's a very intense actor, and he brings that same sort of intensity to this character, and the character design of that and his voice just matched really well. So I thought a lot of the character work was good. A lot of the design work was good. Some of the action sequences were fun. I did not like the main villain of the movie, Wolf. I thought that he was a very bland villain, and I thought the movie relied a little bit too much on sort of calling back to the old movies, in particular the Two Towers. Even though that one is my favorite of the trilogy, it felt like the callbacks to that were getting a little bit too much. Where it's like, okay, you're sort of relying on that a lot as a sort of way to as a sort of crutch to get this like movie going, which felt unfortunate because I felt like there was enough there for it to stand apart. But I think the other big surprise for me also was the sound design. The sound, the effects, the again, the voice acting, and even the score here, which was done by Stephen Gallagher, who used a lot of Howard Shore's themes from the original trilogy. It looks like he worked on a lot of and a lot of the movies in that sound department, and the sound mix and the sound design made this movie feel bigger than it looked on screen. So I think that the sound did a lot of the heavy lifting in this movie. But yeah, again, sort of just an overall a mixed bag when it comes to all those things put together.
Yeah, I think had the anime. I was hoping animation wise we were gonna get something like The Boy and the Heron. While it wasn't my favorite movie last year, that was easily one of the best 2D animations I've seen in a while, especially for Japanese anime. So I was hoping for something like that, especially again, given how epic Lord of the Rings was, including the Two Towers, which this is basically that same land and those same characters that it's derived from. Again, while I agree with you, while the character design was great, especially for Helmer Hammerhand and Hera especially, and the brothers Haleth and Hama, it was just it just didn't stand. It doesn't stand alone, and I don't even think I would want to revisit this movie, to be honest. I'm fine with just the original trilogy, the Hobbit movies, Rings of Power, which I still have to watch season 2, but yeah, this did not do any justice for the Lord of the Rings franchise or 2D animation in general. So, with all that being said, I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 5, just because while I do love the Brian Cox and the voice cast for Hera, and it was nice to see the original actress for Eowyn. I just said her name. I apologize. It was nice to hear her narrate the movie. Overall, it was just bleh. Like, this didn't need to happen as well at this point, or it should have been done better. I think maybe as a mini series with better animation, I would have been a lot happier with. But yeah, I would say $5 Tuesday. It's definitely worth seeing at least once in the theaters, but I wouldn't go all out for Dolby or IMAX or anything like that. So that's my opinion for that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like the people who would probably get the most out of it are the ones who are, diehard Lord of the Ring fans, or the fans of the movies, maybe even the books. I'm not familiar with them. My only point of reference is the movies and the series, and yeah, this one definitely captures that spirit but again is sort of let down by the visual aspect of it, unfortunately, because that is sort of the thing that is like the selling point of this movie, the whole Japanese anime, in the Lord of the Rings universe, and for that to be the big thing that is the fault, of this movie not being as good as it should have been, that is pretty disappointing. But I hope, the woes of this movie don't detract or don't deter people from sort of trying this out. Again, getting more anime style adaptations of properties that we love. So I know Star Wars is doing that with their Vision series, and that's have been pretty good here and there. And I know DC has started to do that too, in sort of the animation factor with their Suicide Squad anime series that was on HBO Max and stuff. So yeah, little by little they're starting to do that, and I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, for me, I agree. This is going to be a 2 out of 5. It's it is a mixed bag. There are things that I like. It is between a 2 and a 3. Honestly, it kind of like fluctuates, but I can't give it that little extra edge when it comes down to it, because of the biggest negative being the biggest selling point, and that is unfortunate. But yeah, if you're a fan of the series, there are definitely things to enjoy here. It's just yeah, maybe check it out at a discount, or whenever it comes to video, because yeah, it's seeing it on the big screen might amplify the negatives for you, but it definitely did for me.
Yeah, and like it really is just the technical aspect of it. And then yeah, I do agree with you that the villain was pretty bland. Like most of the hero, like the villains in the previous films, which is basically Sauron and Sauron, they were also pretty one way, like one direction, if you want to look at it that
they
way.
don't have too much dimension.
But again, it was done in a way that you didn't think about, because they were so well done. And when animation can't translate any of that or really do any, and the story didn't really do that, that's why I'm definitely giving it a 2 out of 5. So for those of you who did happen to watch this film this last weekend, please let us know what you thought about it. Or if you see it soon, come on back and check us out. Leave your comment down. We really appreciate the conversation going. But until next time, everyone, stay bodacious and keep on ranting for us.
Absolutely, everybody. Be good, be safe, and as always, we'll catch y'all on the next one.